The playoffs are here, and you can predict the action all the way to the finals with FanDuel Predicts. Predict the spread, the total points, and even the game-winning moments that make the playoffs. Sign up and get a $25 bonus with FanDuel Predicts.
Offered by FanDuel Prediction Markets, LLC, a registered futures commission merchant. 18-plus bonus is non-withdrawable and expires 7 days after receipt. Trading derivatives involves significant risk and may not be suitable for all investors. Manage your activity with their consumer protection tools. Restrictions apply. See terms at FanDuel.com/predicts/bonus-offer-terms.
We have a special guest calling in.
Yeah, Peter King.
We have Peter King.
Oh, I know Peter.
The chair of Homeland Security in Congress, 28 or 30 years in Congress, one of the staunchest supporters of a Constitution, and a friend, I guess, he's a friend, a common sense Republican. Peter King, happy 4th of July, happy 250 years. I don't know if you've heard all our conversations. How are you doing today?
First, happy 4th to everybody there and to all Americans and to everyone at WABC. And I've been listening in for the most part. It was good to hear Michael Cohen's voice again. It's been a while. So, Michael, good to see you.
Hello, my friend Peter. How are you?
I'm doing fine. Also, let me just say as a parenthetical remark before we go off on tangents, a test of someone, Michael, is I've spoken to several people who are in prison with you, and they say you're a good guy up there. So to me, that means a lot. So there you go.
Well, thank you. I tried. In fact, I don't know if they told you the story. I was so repulsed by how dirty, like, the place was and the walls. I took it upon myself to paint the entire place. And then I requisitioned white and gray paint, because the base has to be gray and then the top of is white. And I put together a little crew, and we just painted the whole place. They gave you the paint? Yeah, they gave me the paint, the paintbrush, the rollers, the whole bit. If you're going to improve the place, then free of labor. I was one of the higher paid inmates. I think it was 16 cents an hour.
Did you report that in your taxes?
I did.
You had to, right?
I did.
Peter, this is Fernando Mateo. I'm sorry that you didn't, say hello to me and that you've been listening to me, but it's okay. I still love you. You know that. Peter,
as long as you love me, I'm happy.
Hey, Peter, do you rember when I was testing?
Michael, let me finish with Peter. Why are you interrupting?
Sorry.
Everybody's a host in this place. Everybody takes command.
Listen, Peter, I want you to be witness to this. Michael, if you get a call from the White House and you're brought back up there, I want to hold on to your coattail. Are you going to allow me to do that? Will you bring me along?
Peter, do I want him?
Probably not.
Peter! Oh, my God. Peter!
Well, let's see.
You're my favorite congressman.
Let's see what else.
By the way, he's everybody's favorite congressman. I'll never forget. I was at the hearing, and Peter was there, and they were questioning me about hacking. Do you remember that, Peter?
I remember that hearing well. That's the one way you ended up pleading guilty for that hearing. I remember that.
Correct, sir. And It was crazy. So they said to me, Mr. Cohen. And I was like, yeah, I think it was Devin Nunes, by the way, who was doing it. And he says, Mr. Cohen, he goes, I understand that you're a hacker. And I said, no, I'm not. And he goes, well, take a look at Exhibit 3. And he opened it up, and it's a massive book. And he goes, read the first line. And it says, Michael Hacking Co. So he turns around and he goes, you're so bold that you are hacking. Or maybe it was a Democrat who did it to me. And I turned around and I said, yeah, that's actually not the correct name of the company. It was Sir Michael Hacking Corp. So he turns around and he goes, and? I'm like, that's a yellow cab corporation. You do know that hacking means to drive. Like some called a hack license. The old term for drivers is called a hack. I think, Peter, you fell off your chair. You're like, how did you not know that? Right? It was so.
That was probably not Devin Nunes. That sounds more like Swalwell. Or
it could have been. You know what? It could have been. Yeah.
Peter King, we were talking about how great the economy is. So many people miss this story because the media's bias. Came out this week that we learned the United States of America is producing 1,200 new millionaires every day. in this country.
-1. So it's 11.99.
Oh no, now we got
That's me.
There's debits and credits.
Yeah, right. That's true. But 1,200 new millionaires every day. I mean, listen, there are always some people who are left out and sometimes unfairly left out. No one is saying everything is perfect, but boy, we're missing a story. Now, as a politician, you're not running for office anymore. I would always advise a politician, never talk about how great the economy is, because they'll just find the one person who's not doing well. You got to talk about it in a more granular way. You say, not in a macro way, you say, hey, this guy, Fernando Mateo, did did some great things with his businesses. But, tell us what your impression of the economy, especially from your perspective out on Long Island. I mean, it seems good to me.
Yeah, overall, the economy is doing well, and there's no doubt that people are really making a move. But also, I mean, there are people who are being kind of called left behind or not moving as quickly, and there's different reasons for that. And so not everybody has a great, but on the other hand, it's still the greatest economy in the world. There's still more opportunity here than any other country in the world. So I think we have to be much more positive. But we can't, again, ignore or forget those who are hardworking and just having a hard time making ends meet right now. There's a lot of them, whether it's college education, whether it's people who just, again, have a lot of bills that have accumulated over the years for whatever reason. Some people get hurt by trade deals. So again, I think it's important to keep everything in perspective. We should not be doomsayers. We have to emphasize what's positive, and there is much more positive than negative. But on the other hand, we can't just be living a good life and forget those hardworking people who could be left behind. So that's all. And I'm not saying we should be coming out with more welfare, but make sure we have more opportunity, make sure we keep the economy open. And my point is, we have to go in after people like Mandami is to show that his policies are going to hurt people. That's going to hurt the small business people. That's going to hurt the guy who's right on the margins trying to get ahead, maybe working overtime, whatever. They're the guys who are going to get hit. So we have to make sure that we, to me, our arguments against Mandami are not that he's giving too much, but the fact that he's hurting so many people, whether it's intended or unintended. That's what's going to happen, whether it's rent control or whatever. That this whole socialist concept that you're helping people, and that situation, you hurt a lot more than you help.
Well, Peter King, you're a lot smarter than all the political consultants. I'll tell you this right now, because I refuse as a conservative to surrender the compassion card to the left. I'm a conservative because I'm compassionate. I hated when President Bush said compassionate conservatism, because in my opinion, that was redundant. I care about the reason why I want these programs to be changed is because I think they will be better for most people who really need it. And the surrendering of the compassion card, I hear so many conservatives say, like, oh, the bleeding hearts. No, I'm the bleeding heart. You know who created the term bleeding heart conservative? Jack Kemp, who was truly a bleeding heart conservative. He walked the neighborhoods.
Okay, you took it right out of my mouth.
Go for it. Go for it, Peter.
First role model in politics. I knew Jack Kemp going back into the 1970s. Everything I did economically, as far as politics, the Kemp-Roth bill, everything was based on Jack Kemp's philosophy. He did a number of events for me. I was proud to call him a friend. My wife was in love with him. Jack Kemp was just a great guy. And to me, he was the heart and soul of the Republican Party. He was Reagan with a blue collar. And to me, made him, in many ways, the unofficial spokesman for my concept of the Republican Party going back to the 80s and 90s. And it's really unfortunate that he never made it to the Oval Office, because he was a great guy. And again, I always consider myself a blue-collar conservative. People say I'm a moderate. No, I'm not a moderate at all. I have really strong principles, but I also believe that you got to look out there for the working guy, the guy that works in the docks, the guy that drives the cabs. To me, my father, he was a cop. He always had 2 or 3 jobs on the side. That's the way I grew up in that environment. And when I was in college, I worked over in the freight yards on the west side of Manhattan. Those are the people that I identify with. And they, to me, are the true conservatives. That's what conservatism is all about.
Peter, how's your relationship with President Trump?
For the most part, it's good. I mean, I don't agree with him on everything, but I tell you, I would sometimes be critical of him and see him the next day. I think we understood each other. He always said we were 2 guys from Queens. Now, he was from Jamaica Estates, I was Sunnyside. Not exactly the same type neighborhood, but the fact is we seem to understand each other. I mean, you have to ask him, but I've never heard him, even sometimes, and I'd be critical. He'd see something, he'd take a shot at me, but it was always with a smile. So I hope we get along, but when I think he's right, I always, and listen, nobody supported him more during the whole Russia hoax collusion investigation than I did. I went down the line for him on that. Obviously, I voted against impeachment with Ukraine, and I stand with Donald Trump on all key issues. I have some differences with him on some foreign policy issues, but he was important for the country for him to be elected president.
And Peter, what is your relationship with Bill Clinton?
I get along fine with Bill Clinton. I mean, I've always did. I saw him, I guess it was about a year ago. Both of us were the speakers at a wake ceremony or memorial ceremony for former Congresswoman Carolyn McCarthy. We had a great meeting that night. We both spoke. We corresponded. No, to me, Bill Clinton, listen, I was the only Republican who voted against every article of impeachment that was up against Bill Clinton. I stood with him. He was no saint, but none of us is. And I just thought that what he did, again, I supported his opponents. I supported Bob Dole. I supported George Bush when they ran against him. Having said that, I was proud to work with Bill Clinton. I was proud to stand with him. And to me, he, again, that's the type of guy you want. He was in some ways more liberal than I would be on issues, but he was always totally pro-American. And also his word was his bond. I found him an excellent president. I think the more history goes along, the higher his rating is going to go. So I'm proud to call Bill Clinton a friend. And I don't think either of us has ever said a bad word about the other.
Now, something happened to the Democratic Party. Something happened in America. And lately, we're all analyzing it, and it seems like after President Obama took office in 2008, and moving on, there started to be a major change in America. I don't know. You are Homeland Security. Tell us what you know.
Yeah, first of all, to me, the Democratic Party should be Joe Lieberman, Ed Koch. They to me symbolize what the Democratic Party should be, and to me, any American can rally behind that type of Democrat, just like Jack Kemp is a type of Republican. Homeland Security. That's when I first started seeing cracks, John. I guess it was during the Obama administration when I was doing the investigation into the radicalization in the Muslim community, and the overwhelming majority of Muslims are good Americans, but there was definitely a force within that community which was working, absolutely refusing to cooperate at all with law enforcement, which had ties to overseas organizations. And when I tried to investigate them, and I did, but I get such a knee-jerk reaction from so many Democrats, and I'm saying, well, what is this? I mean, we should be working together on this. And unfortunately, I had more support from some people in the Muslim community, a lot of it behind the scenes, than I did from some prominent Democrats. And what it was is, it seemed to me they just wanted to always believe the United States was wrong. If there was an incident, if there was something that occurred, and you had to decide who was right and who was wrong, they invariably come down on the side that the United States was wrong. It was I guess going back to what Gene Kirkpatrick said years ago, but it really amplified itself during the Obama years of blame America first. And that was it. And they just couldn't bring themselves to wave the flag, to be proud Americans. And now we see only 29% of Democrats say they're proud to be Americans.
And you were, like I said, you were Homeland Security for a long time. And Joe Biden, me and you knew Joe Biden 30 years ago. Who was really running the White House when Joe Biden was president?
Yeah, obviously it wasn't Joe Biden. I mean, I knew him. I didn't know him well, but I mainly knew him through Al D'Amato, and I would see Joe Biden. And he always was like a little funny, but having said that, he was sharp. He knew what was going on. And to tell you, the last 4 years he was in office, it was like a different person. You see him like on television, and the look in his eye that people saw in the debate with Donald Trump in 2024. That was more and more becoming his look of previous years, that absent mind. I would say, to some extent, maybe his wife, to maybe, again, a liberal element within
was
the
it
White
Obama's
House.
Third term? What they're saying?
There's no doubt that the Obama administration had tentacles in, and it was definitely, I would say, it was as much Obama people in the Biden administration as Biden people. It was Obama, in many cases, his people, definitely calling the shots, certainly slanting the policy.
And was that a period of time where we invaded by migrants versus immigrants that we had checks and balances on?
Yeah. First of all, this big migrant push began under the Obama years. That's when it really began. And then when Biden was in, whether it was Obama's people calling the shots or whatever, the fact that you could let in, basically advertise the fact you have an open border and have 10, 12 million people coming in at a time. And there's so many different threats that come from that. One, you had the drug dealers coming across from the South. Then you had from South America, from Latin America. And then you also had the criminal element coming across. And not just the drug dealers, but, the rapists and, child molesters, sex traffickers coming across, but also there was the fact they were coming from overseas, from the Islamists were coming in. I mean, think of all the precautions we put in after 9/11 to keep terrorists out of the country, and now we were basically welcoming them in. So this was such a national security threat from so many different levels, from the terror threat, the narcotics threat, the sex trafficking threat, and just the overall breakdown of our society. So that, to me, and yet if you even brought that up, you were considered a racist or a bigot.
Well, I get that all the time, Peter, and I'm so thankful that we have somebody on that actually has the ability to play balls and strikes. This strikes on either side, it just doesn't work. You really do call it the way that you see it. It's amazing because whether you're Republican, Democrat, or Independent, I believe everybody should agree with one fundamental principle, that a country without borders, and this is Donald Trump's words, a country without borders, quite frankly, isn't a country. We need to protect our borders. We need to have a system where people who we want in our country should be permitted in, as John was talking about, as far as labor is going to be needed for the construction in the upcoming manufacturing with the trillions of dollars that are supposedly coming in. I 100% agree with you. There are individuals under the Biden administration, starting with the Obama administration, that just flooded through the country. Now, does that mean every single one of them are bad? Absolutely not. I would never be that callous to make that comment. However, I remember when my wife, they tell the stories about when they wanted to come. There has to be a process. So let's sit down, and you would know this better than anybody as Homeland Security. Let's sit down, come up with with real sensible immigration policy. They haven't done this in a very long time.
We're going to need immigrants to operate all those new factories that President Trump is going to bring back to America.
So absolutely, and that's where Peter can actually, help. So maybe, I don't know. Maybe you're not going to be retiring too quickly.
Maybe we need a commission to have immigration of legitimate working people that want to come to America. We used to have an immigration in Ellis Island. We need 10,000 plumbers. Bring them in.
Targeted immigration policies.
Yeah, we need 10,000 electricians. Bring them in.
Sensible immigration policy.
Sensible immigration of people that want to work, not come in to America for a handout. And we leave the homeless in the streets, American homeless in the streets.
Our veterans. Our veterans. Does that on 4th of July, does that not break your heart, America? That these people fought for our constitutional right, for us to be able to sit here right now.
And we're putting in these migrants in the Roosevelt Hotel for $400 a night.
Well, listen, there's a lot to be said about migrants and immigrants. John, I'm glad you brought that all up. But, Peter, one last thing that I'd like to ask you is, would you write a letter to President Trump asking him to pardon Michael Cohen?
All right,
would you do that? Would you do that for me, for Fernando Mateo?
First of all, Michael Cohen can speak for himself more than anyone. He's a very articulate guy. But if I can go back to the immigration thing, I'm a grandson of immigrants. All my grandparents are immigrants. The fact is that immigrants are the lifeblood of our country if it's done the right way.
Amen.
So yes, we needed them. We need them for certain labor. We need them for certain skills. But also, anyone who comes to this country, when you think of it, you come over here and you don't know that many people, you don't have that much money, and you're willing to give up your own country to start over here in America. That's the type of spirit you need. Not the guy who's coming in to go on welfare, not the guy who's coming in to take advantage of it, but that hardworking immigrant population. To me, they make America great. I always felt the hardest workers are the immigrants themselves. their sons and daughters are almost as good, and then each generation after that gets more lazy. But to me, they are the lifeblood of society. I mean, I remember seeing communities in New York where the Koreans would move in and revitalize the community totally. But it has to be done legally. It has to be done that way. It's basically we have absolute no surrender. If a person is over here as an immigrant and they commit a crime, they get deported. There's no second chance if you're an immigrant coming in here. But other than that, they can add so much if it's done the right way. And unfortunately, that all collapsed during the Biden years.
Let me tell you something, folks. I know luxury cars. I've driven the German brands. I paid the prices. And then I got into a Genesis. And I said, wait a second. This is luxury. The look, the performance, the comfort, whether it's a sleek G70, I love that car, or the GV80 with that third row, these are high-end vehicles with payments that actually make sense. Go see Michael. Tell him Sid sent you. Genesis of Brooklyn. Find him at genesisofbrooklyn.com.
Peter King, Homeland Security is also now, of course, in recent years, the Secret Service has come under the auspices of Homeland Security. So we have to protect our borders. We also need to protect our president. We need to protect our candidates. I don't know if you've seen any of this Inspector General report that's come out in the last couple of days about the Butler assassination attempt and how, for example, there were no use of any kind of obstruction between the line of fire on that rooftop between that rooftop and the president. And we now that the counter drone Secret Service agent was frantically Googling in Google Maps the location of that rooftop when the shooting was occurring. We've got to get to the bottom of this. And I submit to you, Peter King, and I don't know what your position was when Secret Service moved from the auspices of Treasury to Homeland Security. But I have to say, when that happened, I was extremely, extremely worried because I felt that the Secret Service would become more politicized by that. So I'd love to have your thoughts on those things.
Yeah, I think we have to look at that. And again, it made sense at the time, though, because we wanted to coordinate all of our federal law enforcement, all of our federal intelligence, get it as united as possible. Because before 9/11, you had all of them in separate silos, and one wasn't communicating with the other. Now, whether or not the Secret Service should be kept separate, again, from the others, that could well be. But I think that a lot of what went wrong with the Secret Service was the administration during the Biden years and to some extent during the Obama years. To me, any police department, any law enforcement can fall to the side if it's not properly managed. And I think they got, whether it was lazy or whatever, like what happened in Butler, I remember that at the time. It seems these various mistakes were made. Like I know, for instance, when the president or any top official comes to New York, with the coordination between the Secret Service, the National Police, obviously the NYPD, Suffolk County Police, all of them come together and they start planning days and weeks in advance. And just that whole idea of having that access from the rooftop. We had just earlier that year had the international cricket tournament was here in Nassau County. Mm-hmm. And I remember Pat Ryder, we had every building within the games being played in Eisenhower Park, any building of any level at all. There were cops there were people monitoring it. And that was the fact that you would have the President of the United States in and you would have a rooftop within just a couple hundred feet of the president, and nobody securing that, it, to me, is absolutely unbelievable. Now, I don't believe there's any conspiracy. I'm not into that. You're not going to have a conspiracy with some guy who is a mental case. But the fact is that it was, to me, somebody dropped the ball. We have to find out who and why, and whether or not it was a one-off or whether or not there was just I mean, I understand at that time, for instance, there were more Secret Service agents securing Jill Biden than there were Donald Trump. I mean, it was not getting the level of security he needed. Yeah. Yeah.
I will tell you, I've been told by a lot of people, and don't forget, George Venizelos, our chief of staff, he runs the Federal Law Enforcement Foundation. I'm chairman of the Federal Law Enforcement Foundation. I've been told by many people that during the Biden administration, a lot of woke people that are really not capable came into the Secret Service.
I can see that happening. There's no doubt. I don't know what level that was at. There's no doubt that people at an administrative level people taking their signals from the White House were much more woke than they should have been. Federal law enforcement, any law enforcement, cannot afford to be woke. They're not social workers.
And the same thing happened, Peter. The same thing happened. And me and General Blaine Holt talk about it because we both know aviation. I've been in the aviation business for 50 years. And that a lot of these accidents, a lot of woke people were brought into the aviation business that had no business being pilots.
I'm glad Sean Duffy is in there now as, again, in charge of transportation. He is a solid guy. No, you're right. I think the woke element pervaded all elements of our government. If you're talking about aviation, you're talking about law enforcement, those are areas where you cannot afford to be woke. Maybe some social issues somewhere, but not at that level. Absolutely not.
But there's something that bothered me terribly when you're talking about the woke community after Butler, after the individual who was hiding out on the golf course. What bothered me the most is some of the commentary that I was receiving on my social media platforms. In my entire life, I don't care if you like the president, I don't care if you dislike the president. Some of the commentary that was coming out, including on some of the networks, the cable news networks, were so despicable. Imagine, and I would say this to them, imagine if that was Joe Biden, the outrage that you would be demonstrating. Instead, the commentary that they missed by an inch, things like that, wanting to see an assassination of a president. I don't care which side of the aisle you ascribe to. It is, to me, the most disgusting thing that people can say, that you want to see the execution of another individual. There's something mentally wrong with these individuals, and I'm not a sociologist, I'm not a psychologist. I have no idea who could think like that or why. That your hatred for a man who wants to do right, and by the way, you don't have to agree, and I say this all the time, you don't have to agree, as you do not, as I do not, with every single thing that Donald Trump says. I just don't, where we have differences of opinion, and that's healthy for a democracy. But to want to see the execution of your president, there's something mentally wrong with these people.
There really is, and I think there were people in society who showed more empathy and sympathy for George Floyd than they did for Donald Trump. I mean, that's just how perverted so many elements of our society became.
Peter King, this is something that reminds me now. I assume you went to Catholic school for some years in your life. Is that correct?
Yeah, I certainly did. Yeah,
okay.
Grade school, high school, college, law school, the whole.
So that means you probably were forced to see, and it's not really a burden because it's one of the greatest films of all time. You probably saw A Man for All Seasons with Paul Scofield.
Yes.
Okay,
St. Thomas More. Yeah,
that's right. An incredible film, and the most powerful scene I think in the movie is really something that teaches us something about the way people have treated Donald Trump. These people who have abandoned their decency, who have destroyed the legal system like they did in Michael Cohen's case to get out President Trump. There's a scene where the young man sitting before Thomas More says, to get after the devil himself, I'd cut down every law in England. And Thomas More stands up, played by Paul Scofield, and says, oh yeah, if you cut down all the laws in England and the devil turns around on you, where will you hide now that all the laws have been cut down? And that's the point. These people destroyed the law, destroyed the rules of protecting the president, destroyed the rules of decency, and the comments that Michael Cohen saw at the time of the assassination attempts. They think this isn't going to have blowback on them. They've burned down the house. And then when their guy's in control or when they're in power, they're going to wonder where their protections have gone. I mean, that is something people need to understand. You can't do that to the Constitution of this country.
No, you really can't. And that's why, to me, it was always ironic that the people who were saying that the police should be taken out or they should be cut back in minority areas, and that's where the crime was being rampant. That's where good, innocent people were being attacked and assaulted. And somehow by taking the police out of those neighborhoods, you're going to make their life better. No, it made it much, much worse. And that's why, people talk about the cops like in New York. When Ray Kelly left office, in the African American community, he had popularity ratings over 70%. And yet somehow that was considered to be the dark ages of police brutality in New York. Well, that's when crime was so much under control. That's when people in all communities, could walk the streets. So, no, this whole idea that you can somehow cut back on the laws, cut back on law enforcement, it ends up no one there to protect you in the end.
The problem that they have also is that Republicans and Democrats just refuse or are incapable of working with one another. They're just incapable. The Democrats do not want to work. Do you remember this, Peter? And again, it's why when you know the show that I'm going to be starting on Sunday on the 12th. I was going to announce it. Well, I appreciate it, but the reason I bring it up is because there are things that have happened in the past that obviously are unique to myself. Do you remember, Peter, during the hearing, what took so long to get started is the fact that I think Adam Schiff was the chair at the time. And
he was a top Democrat.
And he refused to give to the Republicans the documents, the evidence that we were going to be going through at the time of the hearing. So I had a book, all the Democrats had a book, but no Republicans had a book. And I remember everybody sitting there and being like, whoa. Well, where's ours? Don't you think we have a right to be able to say, well, we'll give it to you as we call? And he goes, no, I want to see, and I think at the time, maybe it was Devin Nunes who was representing the Republican side, and he's like, no, I need to see the book. We all should have a copy of the book. In fact, I gave him my book. I said, here, take this, and so on. This is the problem, and I bring it up because it's petty. And that's why Trump has a problem with Shifty Schiff. He's petty. No, I'm serious here. He's there. It's petty. And the nonsense that's going on right now is so petty that what it does is it distracts us from the bigger picture, whether it's affordability, whether it's healthcare, whether it's, immigration or, manufacturing. It takes away from when you start talking about the stupidity of the reflecting pool, when you start talking about all of the other nonsense. Trump wants to build an Arc de Trump. So what? So what? Who cares? I'm more worried about the cost of gas. I'm more worried about affordability and the fact that our veterans are sleeping on the street, that the suicide, remember we talked about that too, the suicide rate is insane as it relates to these people who put their lives on the line for our freedom. No, I got a problem with that.
No, I agree. There's also people on our side who don't want to take a good compromise when it comes along. But no, listen, I think, to me, Donald Trump's greatest skill should be as a negotiator. So we have to find Democrats you can work with, and then Republicans know when a deal is worked, we go with it. You're never going to get 100% of what you want. As
right.
Ed Koch said, if you can get 50%, that's great. I think Trump is in a position where when he negotiates, he can get 70 or 80%. Let's take that and run and go on to the next issue. If you keep waiting to get 100%, you end up going nowhere. And then it just feeds into social media. It feeds into both sides going to their bases, and we get nothing done.
It's feeding into this whole democratic socialism concept.
Yeah. And that's where you end up getting a Mandami here in New York. I mean, we have to. And by the way, we can't pass this as a one-off. This is happening all over the country. So we have to come up with intelligent arguments. We have to fight them at the street level. We have to get people on the ground working. But we also have to have coherent arguments and stand together, know what we're talking about, not just be going off in different directions.
Peter, Fernando Mateo here again. I have to cut into this because you guys are forgetting that I'm in the studio here, and this is a week.
Fernando?
This is a holiday weekend, and we decided to make sure that
it's a holiday weekend. I want to know, why are all the banks open? I just talked to my financial people. Bank of America is open.
Only
JP
half day.
Morgan is
only
open.
half day.
But why are they open?
It's like a Saturday.
Well,
because it's not the 4th of July, it's the 3rd.
It's the 3rd.
Yeah, but people are calling it a national holiday. But if the bank's open, who are they reporting to?
John, it's still
okay. Good point.
Guys, can I just get my point across here? Okay.
I'm sorry. What's your name again?
Fernando Mateo. No excuses. I'm coming on.
Mayor against me in 2013.
I'm coming on air right after you.
On Sunday nights?
On Sunday nights between 6 and 7.
Who?
And after that is Jake Novak, my partner in crime. But listen, for the first time in a half a century, the Goodyear blimp is back home in New York City. The last time that happened was in 1976 when America turned 200, and now 50 years later, we got them back.
You sure it's not a UFO?
No, listen, Michael, I know that you mentioned that you can't travel to certain countries because you're a felon.
Not on my American passport.
Oh, but you can travel with your Canadian passport.
With my Canadian passport.
Okay, so you found the loophole.
Well,
that's how you got to do it.
That's what I do.
Okay, so why should you do it? Listen, I want to ask you something, Michael. There are certain jobs that you can't apply for. There are certain companies that you can't own because of the felony conviction.
Correct.
But here you're welcomed at WABC. With felony conviction or not, you're welcomed here, right?
That's correct.
Okay, so my question to you is, with a Donald Trump pardon, would that felony charge go away?
It goes away completely.
It goes away.
And I'm able to restart my life, which is why myself and Jesse Jackson, now Jesse Jackson Jr.'s son, has taken over, and we created that Trump Emancipation Proclamation. It would give like 70 million Americans. I think this would be the greatest move within which to increase his favorabilities, because nobody's thinking about those individuals. Do you realize you can't even get a job, for example, at Costco with a felony conviction? You can't become a member, for example, of a social club with a felony conviction. You can't
restart your business.
By the way, you can't own a New York City taxi medallion as a felon. I had to sell all those corporations.
You can't get a gun permit in New York City.
You can't get anything. It ruins your Second Amendment constitutional right. For what? Because I talked about, or I said 3 versus 10 as far as the number of times I spoke to Donald Trump, or campaign finance violation. Even assuming, all right, and I acknowledge that there was a tax issue. I acknowledge it. Most
Americans have tax issues if they want to go after you.
But I was never given an opportunity within which to correct it. It was first-time offender in my entire life. First time I had paid enormous amounts of money in tax, over $20 million in taxes on a $1.3 million over 5 years. What are you talking about? They never sent me a letter and said, hey, there's a problem. I wasn't treated the same as everyone. And now that should interfere with my Second Amendment rights. I couldn't get a job at Costco. Think about that.
Well, listen, we're starting here a campaign at WABC Radio. Hopefully we will get your pardon. Once you get your pardon done, we're going to go into business together and we're going to make a lot of money.
Could you imagine if I'm one of the 250 that Trump pardons? Well, on the 4th of July.
Listen, we will celebrate it. If he pardons it for 4th of July, well, we got a guy here with good connections.
Yeah, I mean,
John speaks to him every other day. So, plant the seed in his ear.
Peter King, last word to you. I'd love to make it about
sorry, Peter,
about the 250th anniversary and your message and basically what you've learned. Let's finish on that good note with Peter King. Peter.
Yeah, absolutely. And I say this profoundly. There's no country in the world like the United States. I'm a grandson of immigrants. As a member of Congress, I've traveled all over the world. And when you go to other countries and you see what they'd be willing to do anything to be able to speak out the way we do, to be able to vote the way we do, to be able to express themselves, to be able to know that they can move up. It doesn't matter what class you're born into, you can advance. I mean, you get a place like England, yeah, they're close to us. But if you're not in the right social class, you're going to be grounded your whole life. You're at a certain level. In the United States, you can go from anywhere. Take John Catsimatidis, an immigrant coming over here with Greek family, and now he owns half of New York City. And I'm saying that seriously. I mean, there's so many cases like that. It's only in America. John, as smart as he is, couldn't have done that in any other country in the world. I never would have made it to Congress. The fact is that when you think of where you come from, where your grandparents were, your parents were, and what you can achieve here in the United States, there's nothing like it. It's a beacon of liberty. It's a symbol for the world, and we always have to, whatever differences we have, keep that in mind. God bless America.
Thank you so much, Peter King.
So great to hear your voice, my friend. I hope to see you soon.
All right, we're going to take a break, but stick with us this next hour. We still have Michael Cohen with us. We have Fernando Mateo, of course, John Catsimatidis. I'm Jake Novak. We have Joe Concha coming up in the next hour, Congresswoman Claudia Tenney. Please stay with us. We are live. We're not taking the day off.
And we're running out of time.
The Marine Toys for Tots foster care program is bringing hope to children who need it most. Every 2 minutes, a child enters foster care, often with only a small bag of belongings. More than 400,000 children face trauma and uncertainty, many before age 8. This May, during Foster Care Awareness Month, Toys for Tots is creating Room for Joy. In 2025, nearly 375,000 children received comfort through toys, books, and essentials, reminding them they are not alone. Donate now and change a child's life.